Okay. The text I'm going to talk about today is Joshua chapter 2. The subject is contagious faith and how it influences other people to act. The big idea is that the contagious faith of one person can influence a lot of people to act. And the style is deductive. Okay? I'm not going to read the passage, and I'm just going to reference to it at certain points. Well, to start out, in Joshua chapter 2, it talks about Rahab the prostitute. Joshua had sent two of his spies to Jericho to check and see, okay, is it okay to go after the city right now? How do we have to conquer this? The spies ended up in Rahab's house, and Rahab hid them from the Jericho officials because they were trying to catch them. After the officials left, she went back up to the spies before they fell asleep, and she went up to them and she said, I know what your God has done. I know that I've heard how he's parted the Red Sea. I've heard how you conquered the kings, and I know he's going to take over our land as well. And she shared with them, I know our people are melting in fear because of what your God has done. Mm-hmm. It was encouraging to me when I read that, to see how she was inspired by what God had done and how she had heard those things. It was only a generation above her where all those actions actually happened. When the spies heard this and they left Jericho and they went back to Joshua, they went back and they told him this. And we'll read verse 24. It says, they told Joshua, the Lord has handed over the entire land to us. Everyone who lives in the land is also panicking because of us. I began to wonder, how did they know that? They were hiding most of the time they were in Jericho anyway. And then when you go back to verse 9, you hear what Rahab tells them. Rahab says, I know that the Lord has given you this land and that the dread of you has fallen on us. And everyone who lives in this land is panicking because of you. For we have heard how the Lord has dried up the waters of the Red Sea. And she goes on to share other things that she's heard that have caused her whole city to tremble in fear. And I wondered, how was it that these men really heard this? It was through Rahab. Mm-hmm. And it really inspired me to see how her faith influenced these men to go and share with Joshua, hey, look, this whole city is panicking because of what God has done. Mm-hmm. And they've heard those things. And as you read Joshua chapter 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, you see how Joshua moved the whole Israelite army just based on what these men said. And what they said was based on what Rahab had said to them. Including these people, including the Israelites, to move and come and conquer Jericho. When she shared with the spies, like, I know what your God has done, and I know you're going to come and conquer us, she also asked them, well, can you help me? Can you protect me and my family? And the spies agreed to her. They say, yeah, we'll protect you as long as you hang this red cord out of your window, and then that's how we're going to know that, we're not going to destroy that. However, if any one of your family is outside on the city, or you're not inside, or the red cord isn't down, then we're not responsible for it anymore. Mm-hmm. It's only if the red cord is there. And as you read the next few chapters of chapter 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 up until where Jericho's walls actually fall, you wonder, how did she keep her family in for so long? Mm-hmm. She had to influence them. Right. There's no other way. I could hear her saying to her family as they sit around her, remember how God parted the Red Seas. Remember how he did these things. Mm-hmm. And her family had to be inspired. Mm-hmm. After all, she was Rahab the prostitute of everything you could think of.
Wow.
You go back to Hebrews chapter 11 and see, well, you got all these people. You have Noah and then Abraham and all these other bigwigs of the Old Testament. And in the middle of all of that, you have Rahab the prostitute. And she has a whole little section dedicated to her. Mm-hmm. And God has commended her for her faith, for this faith this deep faith, just based on what she's heard that God has done. Mm-hmm. She allowed her faith to influence other people. It did influence, it spread. It was contagious and infectious. I know right now, as doing the MTP, I know everybody here is interested and wants to serve God in any sort of way, but what what is inspiring you? What faith is infecting you to do what you do? Is it the faith that in Romans chapter 10 it says faith comes from hearing the word? What are you hearing to form these deep-rooted faith convictions that cause you to act, that cause you to do something? What's your legacy going to be? What are you going to help infect? How are you going to help infect other people? What are the people after you going to do? You know, I think why I moved to Lexington was a lot because of Rahab. I'm inspired by her faith. Despite, no matter what she is, she's a prostitute. And I can do that to myself when I can think, oh, but I'm really young. I'm not here, but in Lexington, yeah, I'm really young. Yeah, I have all these ailments going on. And I can forget that, no, but God parted the Red Sea.
Right.
God's going to allow me to help these women, even though they're so much more mature than me, physically and spiritually. And there are all these challenges. And then I think, I wonder what's the legacy I'm leaving behind as well. And I don't think Rahab left an incredible legacy. Being in the Hall of Faith is incredible. And also thinking that generations down, she bore the Son of God. That's incredible. But I don't think she thought that at this point. I know she wasn't thinking, well, I want to be written in Hebrews chapter 11 with Abraham and Moses and all these other people, and therefore I'm going to throw this rope out of the window, and I'm going to tell these spies these things. She didn't. She did it because she knew the God of Israel parted the Red Seas. She knew the God of Israel conquered all of these people. What legacy are you living? And what's your motivation to leave that? And how is your faith infecting other people? How is it being contagious in your ministries and in what you're doing here right now, even at MTP? Let it be that it's because, like Rahab, that we believe, we do what we do, we are inspired by her because we know the God of Israel parted those Red Seas. The God of Israel sent his son Jesus down for us and for our salvation.
Amen. Way to go, Meera.